Chapter 8. Nori was a bite-in for only a minute, but during that minute, she got a lot done. She chewed up one of Mrs. Starr's paperbacks and knocked over the sunflowers on her desk. She ran 3 times around the classroom and then decided to build another beaver lodge. It was only when Bite-in Nori tried to gnaw on Mrs. Starr's chair leg that the metal taste snapped back into her Nori self. She was under the teacher's desk. Please let this be a bad dream, she thought. What a zoom was that? A voice asked. Whatever it wasn't normal, a second voice replied. It had teeth like a beaver. It was too small to be a beaver. The back end was all fluffy and black. We didn't see it long enough to tell. Now we know what's wrong with her. That's for sure. And then Miss Starr's voice. Class, let this be a chance for us to learn the first lesson in upside-down magic. There's nothing wrong with any of you. We will not use the word to describe ourselves. Wonky, then. We won't use wonky either. It's not polite or kind. Instead, we will say different or upside down, said Mrs. Starr. Nori climbed out from under the desk. A cluster of faces looked down at her. Some were concerned. Others were just curious. I'm all right, she said. She was hot with shame. Sorry. Do you need to go to the nurse? Asked Mrs. Starr. Oh, no, said Nori. That just happens sometimes. It's fine. Well, we're all here to figure out how to manage our particular kinds of magic in every situation, even times of stress, said Mrs. Starr. And the first day of school is stressful for all of us, even me. Nori, you've just done a lovely job showing us what kind of magic you have, which is how I want you to start the day anyways. She gestured for all of the kids to return to their seats. Nori took the desk beside Elliot. Miss Starr went to the front of the room and hopped up to sit on her desk. I'm very happy to be here. I just finished my teacher training at UDM, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you this year. Do you know this is the first UDM class Dunwhiddle has offered? Isn't that exciting? She swung her feet, and her bright yellow sneakers swished through the air. As for you guys, you're here because someone thinks you should be, because someone called you wonky, or broken, or worse. Nothing like a positive message to start the day, Elliot whispered to Nori. But guess what? Miss Starr's face broke into a grin. I've been called wonky a different too. And I speak from experience when I say there are ways to make the most of your magic, whether it's typical or not. I'm here to help you get in touch with your nature, to understand your emotions, to develop skills. With these ideas in mind, I'd like to invite each of you to show us your magic. Her manner was joyful, and it was if they were sharing a secret, a good secret. She turned to the blond boy and the thuggish eyebrows, although perhaps his eyebrows weren't quite so thuggish after all. His eyes were round and earnest, and a tuft of hair stuck up from the top of his head. He actually looked nice, if nervous. Sebastian, Mrs. Starr said, would you like to go first? Say something about yourself and then share your magic. Sebastian stood. His chair scraped the floor. My name is Sebastian. I'm kind of Flicker, he said, only I can't turn invisible. And I can't turn other things invisible either. What do you do then? I see sound waves. They're invisible to most people. Are there sound waves coming from me? Mrs. Starr asked. If there weren't, you'd be dead. Sebastian looked startled when some of the kids laughed. Why is that funny? He asked. Sound waves are very important. When you talk or breathe or whenever your heart beats, sound waves. They're zooming all over the room. He waved his hand wildly. Zoom. They overlap a lot. It's pretty complex. What's the point? Asked the other boy in the front row. Nori thought he sounded rude. Also, he wore a t-shirt with a skull and crossbones on it, and Nori imagined him picking out that shirt on purpose so that people would know right away the kind of boy that he was, the kind to wear a skull and crossbones t-shirt. Seeing sound waves, he went on. What good does that do you? They're all around us, said Sebastian. And I see other invisible things too. Whatever, said the boy. Nori felt depressed. First Elliot had ditched her for his flare friends. Then the girl she liked turned out to be Pepper the Fierce. Then she turned into a Biden in front of everyone. The Skull and Crossbones boy was mean. There wasn't much of a bright side to this day. Thank you, Sebastian, Miss Starr said. I know it's not easy to go first. She turned to the Skull and Crossbones boy. Bax, would you like to go next? No. Nori expected Miss Starr to say that he had to, but instead she smiled sweetly. No problem. I'll come back to you later. How about you, Elliot? Elliot stood. He shifted uneasy and patted down his big hair. Flare, he said. Flare and... Mrs. Starr prompted. Flare and freezer, said Elliot, his eyes down. Would you show us, please? Miss Starr looked genuinely excited. Here, I have a glass of water. Would you like to freeze it? I can do regular flare stuff too, said Elliot. Some of it, anyways. You can do that later, said Mrs. Starr. Let's start with the freezing the water. Elliot waved his hand. The water iced over right away. Then the ice shot down Miss Starr's hand and up her sweater. Elliot, stop, she cried. Elliot stopped before the ice could reach her neck. He covered his hands with his face. It's really wonky, I'm sorry. We don't say wonky, Mrs. Starr corrected. Remember, we say different. Boys and girls, Elliot is an upside-down flare. Thinking about opposites is a great place to start understanding unusual magic. She said all this while taking off her frozen yellow sweater and pulling a spare cardigan out of a cupboard. I came prepared, she said cheerfully. That's one of the things we learned in UDM, teacher training. She put on a new cardigan. It was bright orange. Thank you for sharing that with us, Elliot. Now, Andres, are you ready? Everybody looked up. I think it's pretty obvious that my magic does, Andres said gloomily. With a grunt, he pushed off the ceiling. His body drifted a foot towards the floor, then flew back to the ceiling as if he were being jerked by a yo-yo string. He bounced a few times before coming to a stop. The girl next to Nori raised her hand. She was light-skinned and wore her dark hair pulled back in a high ponytail. She was dressed in a funky red and black striped pants and big boots. In her ear, Nori spotted a hearing aid. What happens if you go outside? The girl asked Andres. I'm on a leash. I'm sure you all saw my sister walking me to school. What would happen if she let go? The girl persisted. I don't know, and I don't want to find out, Andres said. What an awful magic to have, Nori thought. At least, when I turn into a Biden, I can turn back. She had a little time to feel sorry for him, though. Miss Starr had moved on to Pepper and was rising from her desk. She kept her eyes on the ground. It's fine, Pepper, Miss Starr said. Really? Pepper hunched her shoulders. She said something Nori couldn't make out. A demonstration would be best, Miss Starr answered gently. Do you need a volunteer? A flexor, perhaps, since your magic works on animals? I'll get some kids from the 7th grade class. She picked up the phone. Less than a minute later, 2 7th graders came into the room, a boy and a girl. Pepper sighed. We're all here for you, Pepper, Miss Starr encouraged. Don't worry. All right, do either of you do crocodile? Pepper asked. The 7th graders shook their heads. That's really advanced, said the girl. How about a bear? No, large carnivores until the end of high school, said the boy. In 5th, we mastered all different colors of kitten, the girl volunteered. I was hoping for something that wasn't little and cute, Pepper muttered. The nicer the animal, the worse this makes me feel. Kittens are fine, Miss Starr said. Let's see. As she flipped the switch, both 7th graders transformed into teensy kittens. One orange and one calico. They were really good kittens, Nori thought, feeling a little jealous. Perfect whiskers, perfect stripes and spots. Not a touch of dragon anywhere. Moving slowly, Pepper knelt down to the kittens. She held out her hand, the way a person does to cats when the person wants to say, I'm safe, see? Come sniff me. The calico's tail stood straight up. Her legs went rigid. She yawled a terrible high-pitched yawl and fled the room in a blur. The orange kitten cowered and hissed. He tried to escape by crawling up the wall, his tiny claws scraping at the white paint. Pepper was clearly the scariest animal these kittens could imagine. Mrs. Star cleared her throat. All right. Thank you for showing us your power, Pepper. Let's let them relax now. But I can't, said Pepper desperately. I can't turn it on or off. They just hate me. Said Mrs. Star. Pepper, would you mind going down the hall? Way down the hall, just until everyone calms down. Twin spots of color appeared on Pepper's cheeks as she slunk out of the room.